Hey guys, JJ back here. This time I'm going to chat on the NCAA Basketball Championship for March Madness. It's going to be Virginia going up against Texas Tech. Seeing right now Virginia minus 1.5, total 118. Look, two of the best defenses going at it here in what in essence is a coin flip. I have a free bet in this video, but I want to be clear about something before I go into it. This is one game, folks. People always go crazy for these championship games. And they typically will end up betting either more money than they would for a standard game, or typically your recreational bettor will become more than that for a game like this. But this game, along with many others like the national championship for college football, the World Series, the NBA Finals, Super Bowl, Stanley Cup, all that jazz. These are the games sportsbooks want you to bet. These are the best lines you'll get, or the fairest lines they'll give throughout the season. And they want people betting more on these games. That's why they give you all the options. They give you all the nonsense ancillary options to bet on the game, all the adjusted point spreads, all the first half, different first half lines, totals, all that jazz. But ultimately, keep in mind, guys, it is one game. And for events like this, people always ask me, like, hey, who you like? Or hey, who should I bet this game? What should I do with the total? My answer is always the same. I basically know just as much as you do when it comes to games like this. Overconfidence can really cripple a bankroll, and it always seems to do so on big title games. I'm not even kidding when I say I have bigger interest on a random Wednesday night in February for a women's tennis, opening round qualifier match. Those are spots I'll find holes in lines. You'll never find a hole on a line for a national championship game of any sorts. So don't convince yourself otherwise that one team is definitely going to win, or one team 100% is going to cover, or the total is definitely going to go under or over. Don't be silly. This is how sports books make all their money. So make sure you stay in your financial lane for games like this in particular. And I'm going to give you a free bet in this video, but ultimately you want to make sure that you don't go crazy. It's always one unit. And again, just really staying in your lane. Keeping in touch with bankroll management. Don't ever let anyone or anything change that aspect of sports betting for you. Now, on the Texas Tech side, they've had a fairly smooth run to get to. They've been quite impressive. They wiped out Northern Kentucky. They trounced a good Buffalo team. They mollywop a publicly loved Michigan squad. They pull away late from Gonzaga in what was a great upset, and that nearly ran wire to wire in their most recent win against Michigan State. These five wins came right after a very impressive big conference season from them. Which is why many will pick Texas Tech for the slight upset here. Tech is also 5-0 against the spread in this tournament, 3-0 as an underdog. Virginia's trip here, though, has been quite bumpy. They open up very flat against a 16-seed Gardner-Webb, actually, trailing by 6 points at the half before being able to pull away in the second half, but Virginia did not cover that game. UVA then plays Oklahoma and doesn't cover the late number of 12 or 12.5. 12 would have been a push, 12.5 would have been a loss. They barely squeeze a win against Oregon, again not covering the spread. They outlast Purdue in a game they should have lost in regulation, but a miracle play at the end brings it into overtime, and they end up covering the 4.5 point spread, winning by 5, despite being down by 1 point with less than 30 seconds in overtime. And most recently, they blow a 10-point lead against Auburn to not only not cover, but they almost lost again. Despite a very controversial ending. So basically, what we have here is the public overall. I mean, it's all of what have you done for me lately. Virginia has just not been, finishing games in this tournament. I think everybody, realizing that. Meanwhile, you got one team in Tech that's just been rolling through teams, and Virginia, who's had two big end of game wins, late to pull it out. So, but I will tell you, despite the numbers that you see here, when you bet them, you might have been 1-4 betting Virginia against the spread, and then you would have been 5-0 with betting Tech against the spread, 3-0 as straight up as underdogs. And I think this is one of those spots where, like I said, people are going to heavily remember those last 3 minutes of that Auburn game. It's just a bad taste in people's mouths if they're going to bet this game. And based on how Tech has just rolled through this tournament, it's definitely going to lean a lot of people towards betting Tech. And I want to be clear that I'm not going to give you a spread. What I'm going to give you is a player prop that I really like in this game. How you bet this spread, is completely on you. Obviously, if you feel like you need to be in action for the game, I'll give you a prop to bet that I really like. But as for the actual game itself, I'm not going to give you a side or a lean I like. I mean, obviously, I have a rooting interest in Virginia. The Pops has a big future bet on them, or a few future bets on them. But for me, I'm not going to bet the spread. Again, it's silly. It's one game. Don't be convincing yourself of making a bet here that ultimately is a minus EV one. Before I go into a few other things, I just want to note that it's very rare during the Tony Bennett era that Virginia loses to a team that does kind of what they do. Texas Tech is really trying to slow the game down, play great defense, really take possessions away from their opponent. That's what Virginia does, and that's what they've been doing for a bunch of years now. So, don't let other people convince you, oh, without a doubt, Texas Tech's going to roll this team or Texas Tech's going to dominate this team. Because when it comes down to playing teams, teams that play very slow and very efficient defensively, Virginia is usually very good against those specific teams. It's the teams that can really speed it up, and teams that have a lot of good scorers that really end up being a thorn in Virginia. But look, needless to say, this should be a very great game, and ultimately very much so looking forward to it. Now, as for the total, it is quite low. Seeing, as I said, 118. It's a fair line that I think many will end up leaning towards the under, just because again the two slow-paced teams, two teams that play great defense. I say this all the time, though, with unders that are under 120, where the number's under 120, you can accidentally get to 120. And I say that because, you just, basically, for you, even if you're limiting possessions, it's tough. I mean, you could, this game could be at 100 with 4 minutes left, and you could still go over 120 because, if it's a 5-6 point game late, you can get those fouls back and forth, the late possessions, the late free throws, the late 3-pointers, back and forth. So just keep in mind that I know a lot of people will probably lean towards the under, but you can accidentally go over 120 or over 118 for that matter. And it's a national championship. There's going to be a lot of late fouls if the game's close. So just something to keep in mind. Again, I'm not really touching the total either, but the bet I am doing, I'm about to give you now. So as I mentioned, it's going to be a player prop, and the one I find favorable here is Jarret Culver. Now I'm in Jersey, and I'm seeing on the FanDuel Sportsbook 17.5 as his total points in favor of the under at -130. Here's why I like the under 17.5 Jarret Culver for points scored. For one thing, possessions in this game will in fact be limited, and while Culver is Texas Tech's stud, I would expect Virginia to absolutely, be all over him throughout this game. Now, he typically gets his 16 to 17 shot attempts out, but with the shot attempts up. But with the limited possessions, I'm not sure he'll actually get there. Now, when I look at who individually has beaten Virginia in this tournament, or at least who's done well against them, obviously Carson Edwards did great. He dropped 42 on him. But what did he do? He banged down 10 threes en route to those 42 points. Oregon's Lewis King scored 16 points. But of those 16 points, 4 of them were 3-pointers. He shoots nearly 39%. By the way, Carson Edwards is one of the best 3-point shooters in the Big Ten as well. But Lewis King for Oregon, he shoots nearly 39% from 3. He banged down 4 threes against Virginia to get him to 16 points. Jose Perez from Gardner-Webb scored 19 points. He also knocked down 4 threes. And he shoots nearly 39% from 3. Outside of these 3, no one in this entire tournament has scored more than 13 points against Virginia. Now, you'll find very few people who watch more Virginia games than myself. And while these numbers are simply a snapshot, UVA does tend to struggle with talented guards that can shoot the 3-ball well. I say that specifically because Culver is a very talented guard, almost somewhat of a swingman, but a very talented guard that does a lot of his damage actually inside the arc and at the free throw line. This is where UVA really buckles down on defense. They don't foul, and they're very tough to score on inside. You try to drive into that teeth of that defense. You've seen it probably all tournament. Teams really struggle to get easy baskets inside. So I do believe Culver is going to really struggle there. For the tournament, Culver is 7 for 25 from 3. It's about 28%. So again, he's basically right around his season average, which is about 31% from 3. And again, Virginia may give him open looks from 3 based on the numbers, but I can't imagine that's going to be the case. I do think they're going to at least try to force him into tough shots. So again, 17.5. While his season average is 18, 17.5 seems awfully high. Awfully high in this spot. Just to recap, it's going to be Jarret Culver under 17.5 points. Seeing that at the FanDuel Sportsbook, I do believe you'll see these odds offshore tomorrow. You might even see a higher number because again, he averages over 18. But again, this basically comes down to Culver is not a great 3-point shooter. You basically need to beat to score a lot against Virginia individually. And UVA is so tough inside to score on, and they just don't foul. So I get it that he averages 18 a game, but when you take the above factors in along with the slow pace, limiting possessions for both teams, I think it'll be awfully hard for him to get over 17. Now, he'll have to be hitting his threes to get there, which again, he's hitting at a 28% clip for the tournament. And I can't imagine, based on the numbers, that Tech is going to want their offense to be leaning on Jarret Culver, firing up threes. So again, the play here is under 17.5 Jarret Culver. Points scored. Now, I want to thank you guys for watching. Good luck with your bets for the game. Remember, it is only one game, so don't get silly. Live to fight another day. I can promise you that as long as we dodge some type of an apocalypse or zombie invasion, there will be plenty more of these opportunities at the national championship level for games to bet on. So look, keep your dick in your pants and bet whichever side or total you like, but just don't go crazy with it. Have fun, ultimately enjoy the game. I want to thank you guys again for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and comment below on who you're betting. I know, a lot of people this time of year make a lot of bets, maybe that don't often do so, or maybe make a few bets on the game that don't do so. So definitely let me know who you're betting. I would love to chat back and forth with you. Always interested to see your guys' take. So again, like the video, please subscribe if you're not already. And again, I wish you the best of luck with this game, and I will be back soon.